Welcome to The Catholic Perspective, a podcast brought to you by rcspirituality.org. Enjoy the episode.
Mary's faithfulness to God, flowing from a deep awareness of God's faithfulness and trustworthiness, was beautifully rewarded by her assumption into heaven. Through the Assumption, Mary became not only an example for every individual Christian to follow, but also a pattern for what the Church as a whole will experience at the end of history. Turning our gaze towards Mary, then, can open up a source of hope and comfort for us as we make our way through the storms and troubles of life in this fallen world. But how exactly do we turn our gaze towards Mary? Meditation and study are excellent ways to do that, but through the centuries the Church has developed an even more direct and simpler way. It consists of keeping artistic images of the Blessed Virgin close at hand and contemplating them frequently. The image serves as a reminder of all that she teaches us, of all that she stands for. It can also remind us to pray to her, to ask for her intercession. Like any photograph of a loved one, images of the Blessed Virgin keep us tuned into her presence and inspire us to persevere in our journey of faith. The more beautiful the image, the more fruitful our contemplation will be. The history of Christian art has given us a vast treasure trove of beautiful representations of Mary and the different mysteries of faith associated with her life. But those works of art, like all works of sacred art, can be much more than just pretty decoration in our lives. They can actually feed our souls, if we let them. In this conference, we will reflect briefly on the role that art can play in our spiritual growth, and on how learning to contemplate great art can be an antidote for some of today's cultural ills.
Art seasoned with grace.
I would like to begin with a disclaimer. Just because art can be and has been used to foster spiritual growth, that doesn't mean that great art has some kind of magical property, as if it were a shortcut to holiness. Plenty of art connoisseurs know how to appreciate great art, even great religious art, but never experience spiritual growth as a result of their connoisseurship. Plenty of art experts can lecture for hours about Raphael and Pinturicchio, and yet no Renaissance masterpiece has ever moved them to prayer. The Church has always encouraged the production of sacred art, its use in worship and liturgy, and its value as an expression of and stimulus to faith. But clearly, sacred art doesn't automatically feed the soul. Something has to happen to make that connection take place. What allows great art to become soulful nourishment is primarily grace. God's grace releases the transforming power of beauty in our souls, whether that beauty flows from art or nature. The history of spirituality shows two broad categories of experience in which grace activates the potential of great art.
Surprised by beauty.
First, we can be surprised by beauty. God can recruit beauty to knock us out of our comfort zones, to open the eyes of our souls to the transcendent dimension of faith. In this context, beauty has played a key role in many conversions, both conversions from sin as well as conversions to the Catholic faith. I know a priest, for example, whose vocation began one day while he was sitting in the upper rows of a concert hall, listening to an entirely secular performance of a Mozart Mass. The beauty of that music became an occasion of grace for him. I personally experienced this from the inside out. My own conversion to the Catholic faith began with a college semester overseas, studying art and cultural history in Florence, Italy. There, I truly fell in love with the Church through her art and architecture. It was as if the Lord was wooing me with artistic beauty, using it to open my mind and my heart to new dimensions of Christian discipleship. All my free time was spent gazing at sacred art and immersing my soul in the sacred space of architecture. I couldn't get enough of it. I was dramatically surprised by beauty, and it altered the entire course of my life. God knows how to reach the hearts of His children, and some of those hearts will respond especially well to artistic beauty. But we don't have to wait around and hope that God surprises us. We can intentionally graceify, so to speak, our own contemplation of sacred art. I use the term contemplation here in its general sense, not in the technical sense of infused contemplation. It's very simple, really. Just as we can open a sacred text or a spiritual commentary on a sacred text and read and reflect on it in order to enter into mental prayer or Christian meditation, we can do the same with a work of sacred art. We can enter into God's presence and then turn our attention to Him and listen to Him speak in our souls through reading and reflecting on a work of sacred art. The great works of Christian art include deep insights into our faith. They are as legitimate commentaries on Scripture and Christian history as are the written commentaries of spiritual authors. Artists have been given the gift of perception and communication. They have something to show us. As Blessed Pope Paul VI put it in a speech when he addressed artists, "You have aided the Church in translating her divine message in the language of forms and figures, making the invisible world palpable." St. John Paul II expressed this gift of the artist even more intensely in a speech he gave when visiting Ireland. He said, "Every piece of art, be it religious or secular, be it a painting, a sculpture, a poem, or any form of handicraft made by loving skill, is a sign and a symbol of the inscrutable secret of human existence, of man's origin and destiny, of the meaning of his life and work. It speaks to us of the meaning of birth and death, of the greatness of man." Taking time to prayerfully read or listen to a great work of art, then, can lead to a deeply enriching spiritual experience.
Learning to look.
In order to do this kind of reading, we usually need to learn the grammar and syntax of art, at least the basics. This includes both learning how to look and listen by studying the structure and dynamics of the different art forms, and also familiarizing ourselves with the specific insights and concerns of artists in the different periods and contexts of art history. A Renaissance Madonna, for example, is seeking to communicate something very different than a Byzantine icon of the Madonna. Learning the grammar of each style better enables us to hear what specific works of art may be saying. Formal study of these things is not strictly necessary. Certain personalities are naturally sensitive to aesthetic experiences and can naturally read works of art, and we can all learn to nourish our souls in this way simply through spending more time with works that we are spontaneously drawn to. All forms of art have been used as vehicles for expressing the truths of our faith, and so all forms of art can be contemplated as a way of entering into mental prayer. From painting to music, from poetry to architecture, from performance to sculpture, the great achievements of art open up ample vistas for study and contemplation.
Unique benefits of praying with art.
Should everyone explore this arena of spiritual activity? Should everyone make an effort to allow great art to feed their souls? It certainly can't hurt to try, and I strongly believe that it can really help. Today's culture promotes an unhealthy overindulgence in extreme emotion. It makes an idol out of strong feelings. As Christians, we are rightly suspicious of that and resist it. We rightly strive to live our lives and make our decisions based on solid faith, not based on whimsical feelings. And yet, to grow to spiritual maturity includes not just disciplining our emotional life, but really integrating it into our relationship with God, really allowing it to flourish under the sure guidance of reason, enlightened by faith. Great art can be a strong ally in that effort. Art, the expression and experience of beauty, brings together, aligns and integrates the mind, the senses, and the emotions. And sacred art is the highest expression of art. Bringing the contemplation of art into our lives, therefore, is a practical way to be proactive in the healthy integration of our emotions into our relationship with God.
Conclusion. Marian Beauty.
Maybe this is why so many of the great works of Christian art through the centuries have depicted the Blessed Virgin Mary. Children learn to manage and integrate their emotional worlds primarily from their mothers. In the order of grace, Mary is our mother, the mother of every Christian. The great works of art depicting her mirror her own spiritual maturity and harmony. By gazing at them, contemplating them, and giving them a place in our life of prayer, they can become bridges of grace, stirring reminders of all that she has to teach us about the path to intimacy with God. A lot more could be said about art, where it gets its power, what beauty really is, how to unlock its secrets more easily. Maybe in future retreat guides, we can explore some of these useful and interesting questions. But for now, I want to leave you with a quotation from Pope Benedict XVI about the importance of rediscovering art as a path to deeper prayer. Here is how he put it in one of his weekly audiences. On several occasions in recent months, I have recalled the need for every Christian to find time for God, for prayer, amidst our many daily activities. The Lord Himself offers us many opportunities to remember Him. Today, I would like to consider briefly one of these channels that can lead us to God and also be helpful in our encounter with Him. It is the way of artistic expression, part of that via pulchritudinis, that way of beauty, which I have spoken about on many occasions, and which modern man should recover in its most profound meaning. Dear friends, I invite you to rediscover the importance of this way for prayer, for our living relationship with God. Mary's Assumption can be a source of hope, instruction, and comfort for all of us, if we learn to lift our gaze to her in our times of need. Great works of art can help us do that.
You have been listening to The Catholic Perspective, a resource from rcspirituality.org. Please visit our website and check out more great resources to help you pray, learn, grow, and go. Please join our team of digital missionaries by subscribing at rcspirituality.org.